cruel, heartless. That's what people called me the day I walked out of my house with a small suitcase in my hand, leaving my husband of 50 years lying in a hospital bed, unable to stand, unable to dress himself, unable to even go to the bathroom without help. The neighbors stood on their porches watching me like I had just committed a crime. My daughter was crying. My oldest son said I was cold. Even our pastor told me that marriage is a commitment, not something you walk away from when it becomes inconvenient. Not one of them asked me why. Not one of them wanted to know the truth. Because the truth is never as simple as the story people prefer to believe. My name is Margaret Collins. I'm 72 years old, and 3 months ago I left my sick husband and never came back. I don't regret it. But to understand why, you have to go back to the beginning. I married Richard when I was 22. He was the kind of man people trusted immediately. Clean, calm, steady job at a bank, good reputation, the kind of man parents feel safe handing their daughter to. My mother said I was lucky. My father said I would never have to worry about my future. I believed them. The first years were quiet, no drama, no shouting, no chaos. And that's exactly why I didn't see it coming, because nothing broke all at once. It shifted slowly, so slowly I didn't even notice. At first, it was small things. He would correct me in front of people. If I told a story, he would smile and say, "That's not exactly how it happened," and then retell it in a way that made me sound confused or dramatic. People laughed. I laughed too. It didn't feel like humiliation back then. It felt like nothing. Then came the money. He said it was easier if he handled everything, that he was better with numbers, that I didn't need to worry. I agreed. Then came the decisions. What we bought, where we went, who we spent time with. It all slowly started to go through him, and every time I said yes. Because it didn't feel like control. It felt like order, like he just knew better. We had 3 children. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Dinner every night, church every Sunday, smiling photos at Christmas. People used to say I was lucky because he didn't drink, didn't cheat, didn't raise his voice. And the worst part is, I started to believe that too. Because when everyone repeats the same version of your life long enough, it becomes the only version you can see. But inside the house, it was different. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. He had a quieter way of making me feel small. If dinner wasn't perfect, he would just go silent. If I was tired, he would look at me like I had failed something I didn't even know I was being tested on. If I got sick, he acted like I was causing him inconvenience. He never raised a hand. He didn't have to. His way worked better. I started talking less, then even less. Eventually, I stopped sharing anything at all. I learned to read his mood before he walked into the room. I learned to apologize before I even knew what I had done wrong. I became easy, quiet, invisible. Years passed, then decades. The kids grew up and left, and that's when everything became clearer, because there was no one left for him to perform for, no audience, no image to maintain, just me and him, and the version of him that no one else ever saw. Somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking of myself as a person. I was a function, the one who cooks, the one who cleans, the one who remembers everything, the one who keeps things running. And the strangest part is, I stayed. Not because I couldn't leave, but because I no longer knew what leaving even looked like. And then one morning, everything changed. I found him on the bathroom floor. His face was twisted, his words broken. I called 911. I rode with him in the ambulance. I sat in that hospital for 3 days waiting. And here's the truth no one expects me to say. I was afraid he might die, not because he was a good husband, but because I didn't know who I was without him. He survived, and that's when the real story began. I thought the worst part would be the hospital. I was wrong. The worst part started when they sent him home. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. A stroke, but not the kind that kills you, the kind that keeps you here, a little weaker, a little slower, dependent. They said he would need care, daily care, full time. And when they said it, everyone in the room turned to look at me like there was no question who that would be. I nodded before anyone even asked. Of course I did. That's what I had done for 50 years. I didn't even think about it. I just stepped back into the role I had always played. The first days were exhausting. Lifting him, helping him walk, helping him eat, helping him to the bathroom. He hated it. Not the pain, not the weakness, the loss of control. I could see it in his eyes every time he needed me to do something he used to do himself. And at first, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Importance. Like I finally mattered. Like I was needed. It sounds strange, but for a moment I thought maybe this would bring us closer. I thought maybe now he would see me differently. That lasted exactly 4 days. On the 5th day, I brought him breakfast. Oatmeal, soft, exactly how the doctor recommended. I placed the tray in front of him and helped him sit up. He looked at it, then at me, and said, "This is cold," just like that. No thank you, no acknowledgement, just complaint. I said I could warm it up. He shook his head slightly and muttered, "You can't even do this right." Something in my chest tightened, but I pushed it down. Old habit. Fix it. Don't react. Do better. That's what I had trained myself to do, but that was just the beginning. Day by day, the pattern came back. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. If I was too slow, he would sigh. If I forgot something small, he would look at me like I had failed him. If I helped him too much, he would snap that he wasn't useless. If I stepped back, he would say I didn't care. There was no right way. There never had been. And I started to see it clearly for the first time. This wasn't new. Nothing had changed. The only difference was that now I was doing twice as much, and it still wasn't enough. One evening I was helping him into bed. He was heavier than he looked, and my back was already aching. As I adjusted his pillow, he suddenly grabbed my wrist, harder than I expected. His grip was weak compared to before, but the intention was the same. Control. "Don't drop me," he said. I looked at his hand on my wrist, then at his face, and for a second, something strange happened. I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel guilt. I felt distance, like I was looking at a scene I had already seen too many times. And that's when the first real thought appeared. Not loud, not emotional, just clear. Nothing has changed. That thought stayed with me. It followed me through the next days, through every task, every look, every small comment. Nothing had changed. He was still the same man, and I was still expected to be the same woman. But something was different. Me. A week later, my daughter came to visit. She hugged him, kissed his forehead, told him he was strong, that he would recover. Then she turned to me and said, "You have to be patient with him. He's going through a lot." I nodded. Of course I did. Then she lowered her voice and added, "This is when he needs you the most." I almost laughed. Not out loud, just inside. Because for the first time in 50 years, I realized something no one else seemed to see. He had always needed me. The difference was, now everyone could see it, but they still didn't see me. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the kitchen. The house was quiet. He was asleep, and I just sat there, staring at nothing. Then the second thought came. Stronger this time. What if I stop? I didn't answer it. I just sat there, letting it exist. And for the first time in my life, that question didn't feel impossible. The change didn't happen all at once. It showed up in small things I almost didn't notice at first. One morning I woke up and didn't rush to his room. I just lay there for a few seconds longer than usual, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence. My body felt heavy, like it didn't want to move. Usually I would already be up, already thinking about what needed to be done. But that morning, I didn't. When I finally walked in, he was awake, staring toward the door. "You're late," he said, not angry, just stating it. I didn't answer. I just helped him sit up, the same way I always did. But something felt different, slower, like I was watching myself from the outside. The days started blending together. Same routine, same tasks, same voice. But I began to notice things I had ignored for years. The way he never said, "Thank you." Not once. The way every request sounded like an order. The way silence in the room always felt like pressure, not peace. One afternoon, I was helping him eat. His hand was shaking, so I held the spoon. He turned his head slightly and said, "Not like that." I adjusted. "You're making a mess." I wiped the table. "You're too slow." I sped up. Then he stopped eating completely. "Forget it," he said. I put the spoon down and just looked at him, really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man who had never been satisfied. Not once. Not ever. That thought stayed with me. It followed me into the next day, and the next. And then something small happened. I forgot to bring his water. Just forgot. When he asked for it, I stood there for a second, trying to remember if I had actually done something wrong, or if this was just another moment that would turn into one. Then I went to the kitchen, poured the water, and brought it back. He took it without looking at me. No reaction, no words, and suddenly it hit me. If I do everything right, nothing changes. If I do something wrong, nothing changes. The result is always the same. That evening I sat in the living room after he fell asleep. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. I was just sitting there, holding the remote, staring at the screen without seeing anything. My hands were still. My mind wasn't. I kept replaying small moments, things I used to ignore, things I used to explain away, and they all started to look different, sharper, clearer, like someone had turned on a light I didn't know existed. I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. For a second, I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me, not because she looked different, because she looked empty, like something had been taken out of her piece by piece, slowly, over years. I leaned closer. I tried to remember the last time I felt something real, not responsibility, not duty, not fear, just something that belonged to me. I couldn't, and that scared me more than anything he had ever said or done. The next morning, I didn't set an alarm. I don't even know why. I just didn't. I went to bed and let the night pass without planning the next day. When I woke up, the room was bright, too bright. I turned my head toward the clock. I was late, really late. My heart jumped. My body reacted out of habit, and I got up quickly. But then I stopped, just stood there in the middle of the room, listening, waiting. Nothing. No shouting, no panic, no disaster. I walked to his room slowly. He was awake, looking at the ceiling. "You didn't come," he said. I nodded slightly. I overslept. He looked at me for a few seconds, like he was trying to understand something that didn't make sense to him. "You can't do that," he said. Same tone, same certainty. And suddenly something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, just clean, like a thread that had been pulled too tight for too long and finally gave up. I looked at him and didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't apologize. I just stood there, and in that silence, I knew something had already ended. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. The decision didn't hit me all at once. It had been there for days, maybe longer. I just stopped ignoring it. The next morning, I followed the same routine, helped him sit up, brought his breakfast, gave him his medication. Everything looked the same from the outside. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would make anyone think something had changed. But inside, everything had already shifted. I wasn't doing it for him anymore. I was just finishing what needed to be finished, like closing something quietly. That day, he complained about everything. The food was wrong. The pillow was wrong. I was too slow, too quiet, too something. It didn't matter. I didn't react. Not because I was patient, because I was done. That was the difference. In the afternoon, I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. I stood there for a moment, looking at my clothes like they belonged to someone else. Dresses I hadn't worn in years, shoes I forgot I even owned, pieces of a life I had stopped living a long time ago. I reached up and pulled down a small suitcase, the same one we used for trips I never really wanted to go on but always did. I placed it on the bed and opened it. My hands were steady, no hesitation, no second thoughts. I started packing, not everything, just enough, a few outfits, personal things, things that were mine, nothing that needed explaining. While I was folding a sweater, I heard his voice from the other room. "Margaret." I didn't answer. "Margaret." Louder now. I kept folding. "Where are you?" There was irritation in his voice. I finished, placed the sweater in the suitcase, and walked into his room. He looked at me, annoyed. "I've been calling you." I nodded. "I heard you." He went quiet, watching me longer than usual, waiting, like always, for me to explain, apologize, fix it. I didn't. He tilted his head slightly, like something wasn't fitting the way it used to. "You're different," he said, not asking, stating. I held his gaze for a second. Maybe. That was enough. His face tightened. "I don't like it." Of course he didn't. I said nothing. I just stood there, and for the first time the silence didn't belong to him. It belonged to me. I turned and walked out of the room. No rush, no hesitation. Back to the bedroom, back to the suitcase. I closed it this time. The zipper sounded louder than it should have. Final. I placed it near the door, not hidden, not explained, just there, waiting. That evening my daughter called. "How is he?" she asked. "The same," I said. "You have to be strong," she added. "He needs you." I looked at the suitcase while she spoke. "I know," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. After the call, I sat for a few minutes, not thinking, just sitting. Then I stood up, picked up the suitcase, and walked to the door. My hand paused on the handle, not because I was unsure, because I realized how simple it was. 50 years, and it all came down to one movement. I opened the door. The air outside felt different, lighter. I stepped out and closed the door behind me, quietly. No noise, no scene, no goodbye. I didn't look back, not once. I walked down the steps, past the porch, onto the street. The neighbors were there. Of course they were, watching, whispering. I could feel it without turning my head. My phone started ringing. I didn't answer. I already knew who it was. I reached the corner, turned, and kept walking. Each step felt strange, like I was using something I hadn't used in years. Not my body, something else. Freedom. I didn't run. I didn't hurry. I just walked. And with every step, everything behind me got quieter. The house, his voice, the expectations, the role. all of it fading, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking towards something I was supposed to be. I was walking away from everything I no longer was. By the time I reached the end of the street, my phone had already rung 6 times. I knew who it was without looking. My daughter, then my son, then again. I let it ring. I kept walking. By the time I turned the second corner, a message came through. Then another, then another. I didn't open them. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear their version of what I had just done, because I already knew what it would be. That I abandoned him. That I was selfish. That after everything he had done for me, I walked away when he needed me the most. That was the story they would tell. It was clean, simple, easy to understand, and completely wrong. I kept walking until I reached the bus stop. I sat down on the bench and placed the suitcase next to me. My hands were still steady. That surprised me. I thought I would feel something else by now. Panic, regret, fear. But there was nothing like that. Just a strange, quiet space inside me. The bus arrived 10 minutes later. I got on, paid, and sat by the window. As the city started moving past me, I finally looked at my phone. Dozens of missed calls, messages stacked one after another. I opened the first one. "Mom, what are you doing?" The next. "You can't just leave him like that." Then, "People are already talking." And then the one I knew would come. "After everything he's done for you." I stared at that sentence for a long time. After everything he's done for you, that was always the sentence. The one that erased everything else. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes for a second. And then, for the first time, I said it out loud. "You don't know." The woman sitting across from me glanced up, but I didn't care. I wasn't talking to her. I was talking to all of them, to everyone who had already decided who I was, because they didn't know. They didn't know about the years of silence, the way I learned to disappear in my own house, the way every small thing turned into something I had to fix. They didn't know that I stopped being a person long before I ever walked out that door. They didn't know that I had already left, piece by piece, over decades. What they saw that morning wasn't me leaving. It was just the last step, the visible one, the one they could finally react to. The bus kept moving, street after street, house after house, life going on like nothing had happened. And that's when it hit me, not as a thought, as something deeper. I hadn't abandoned him. I had returned to myself. That was the truth. No one wanted to hear, because it didn't fit the story. It didn't make me the villain they needed. It made me something else, something harder to judge. When I opened my eyes, I saw my reflection in the window. For a second, I didn't look away. I held it, and I saw someone I hadn't seen in years, not younger, not happier, just there, present, real. My phone rang again. I looked at the screen. My daughter. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. "Mom?" Her voice was shaking, angry, scared. "Where are you?" I took a breath, not to calm down, just to speak clearly. "I'm on my way somewhere," I said. Silence. Then, "You need to come back." I looked out the window. The city was already different. New streets, new people, no history attached to me. "No," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I don't." She didn't speak for a second. Then came the words I expected. "How can you do this to him?" I closed my eyes again, not because it hurt, because it didn't anymore. "I already did everything for him," I said, "for 50 years. Silence, heavy, long. And then she whispered, "People are saying things." I almost smiled. "They always did," I said quietly. I ended the call. I put the phone down, and I didn't pick it up again. The bus kept moving, and this time I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was finally going somewhere.